My name is Michael Moore. I'm an executive director at EY, and I run our national practice in knowledge graphs and artificial intelligence. And I'm pleased to introduce some members of our team from EY. So we have with us Todd Middlemas, who is a partner in our transaction advisory service. And it's kind of a funny name, but what it really means is when companies want to do acquisitions or spinoffs, we have a practice that supports that. And so today, Todd is joined by Sameep Mondhe, who is a senior manager, lead developer and architect for this new application that we're rolling out across EY, and it's called the Organizational Talent Hub. And so I'll let them introduce the business case for this project, but very high level. In addition to performing advisory work around Neo4j, we're actually a Neo4j customer. And this is an application that's built entirely on Neo4j. And so without further ado, I'll introduce Todd, and why don't you take it away.
Great. Thank you. So thanks for everyone for coming here this afternoon. So I'll just give some context to the business problem that we solve with the application that Sameep is going to walk you through and talk about how we use it. So as Michael mentioned, we help clients from a consulting kind of services perspective. We help clients manage kind of large, complex transactions. So acquisitions of two large companies. We tend to work with some of the largest transactions that are happening in the country. Acquisitions, spin-offs, integrations, divestitures, joint ventures, those types of things. And in particular, we're focused on, or at least the services that we'll talk about today, are focused on people. They're focused on people and positions in those organizations. If you can imagine taking two organizations with over 100,000 people each, merging them together, and then figuring out who's going to report to who in the future organization, which legal entity they're going to be associated with, which cost center, which location, which department, which product. We've been developing a platform and providing clients a platform service, with technology behind it for a number of years, and we used to provide that technology on some of the older technologies, right? So we used to have a lot of object relationships, a lot of hierarchical relationships that we were trying to build with older technologies. So we were really excited. A couple of years ago, we had opportunity to revamp our platform, look at the latest technologies that were on the market. And we've had a lot of success adopting Neo4j. I think it's almost fit for purpose from the business need that we need to be able to see and model and change and see kind of changes real time or dynamically see the impact of those changes in a very kind of fluid way. I'm going to hand over to Sameep, but typically our process, our service to clients is. It's our technology platform. So as Michael mentioned, we're a client for Neo. It's the consulting services we provide, and then it's the methodology. So you'll see today our methodology and our processes are embedded inside of the tool and the application. It just makes it even richer. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Hi, everyone. So can we switch to the Mac, please? Yes, thank you. So I'll be walking you guys through this particular application. Now this application, I would like to talk about the technology stack that we're using for the application before I do a deep dive with what features and functionality that application has. So this is, it's a 3-tier architecture. The front end is based in AngularJS D3, which is used for some of the graph visualizations. And the middle tier is Java Spring Boot framework, and backend is Neo4j database. So we're using Neo4j to kind of store all the relationships and nodes and with respect to positions and people that we are dealing with through this particular tool. Now you can see this is a home page, and we are trying to show a lot of KPIs on this home page. This gives you, depending on the user that is logged in, every user you can control what level of access that user has for an organization data. And what we do is basically whenever we go to any client engagement, we discuss with client and decide what attributes that we want to ingest in this particular application so that the client can take a look at these attributes when they are making decisions for their future state organization. So the demo, the way it is set up right now, it is kind of two companies are merging and forming a third company. So you will see data from source company A, source company B, and then they're forming a future company, future co. And we go to the clients, we discuss data elements, or there's a tool, there's a feature that we can customize what kind of data elements that we're ingesting in the application. We ingest that particular data, and that data is available for the users to look at depending on the access. So I'm logged in as a senior HR business partner for this particular application, and this is the access that I have. Now, this particular demo is to an extent, is in process. So you will see that some of the org mapping, org design related decisions have already been taken. And I'll be walking you through different modules which are part of this engagement model. So, but this is the home page, which gives you a high-level view of what exactly is the cost of the organization currently, what are your synergies or savings, and what is the span of control that you want to have for your organizations. How you're currently doing against what are the different targets which are set for you, for your organization, and how you're going to meet those. So I'll go to organization mapping. So this is one of the first steps where you have data from source company A, source company B, and then you're deciding like how exactly this gets mapped to a future state of the organization. And if I drill down to the function level, you can actually see like data from various businesses or functions, how exactly the positions which are present are getting mapped to the future state of the organization. And then like you can see finance is mostly untouched, HR is getting transformed, like mostly same number of positions are going to HR, legal, and that sort of thing. The business A, you are like kind of trying to change, restructure, and stuff like that. So this is like gives you a very high level view of what this is. What it does, what it is doing in backend is basically going to the entire Neo4j hierarchy, reading all the information about all the positions which are there, and then showing that information here. There's also a chart view where you can see the like all the positions and the hierarchy that is available for all these positions. So you can see like different titles, and then how people report into each other. And then you can decide of how exactly you want to transform it to the next level. So you can see like on the future state, it's already tagged to finance and state, like finance and tax. You can select like a one hierarchy like this. Let's take these 10 positions, and you can align these to future state. Finance and tax maybe. You can mention, and then you can apply to all its children the same decisions. And then you can go ahead and save. Now, once you save it, it's for your own private workspace that you're saving these decisions. These are not visible to other users of the application. But once you commit these changes, those changes would be visible to the other users of the system, and they'll be able to see the decisions that you have made. And there is a tabular view as well. So if you want to do certain operations in bulk, you can always use this particular tabular view. And you can filter, all these columns are filterable, so you can take a look at and decide exactly what are the set of positions that you want to manage in one shot, and you can make decisions regarding that. So let's say I filter on job title as specialist, and then you'll see all the senior specialists. You can select all these positions, and then you know that there's like 1180 positions which are available, and you can make decisions about them. Like you can go and edit, your same UI is available, and you can make decisions. Once you perform org mapping, the next step is to go to kind of, so org mapping is usually performed at a very high level. You decide like how exactly my future organization is going to get distributed. And then you go to a finer level of organization redesign, which is basically org remapping. Now here, I have access to org mapping and org remapping, but in real life, only senior level users would have access to org mapping, and then somebody junior level HR business partners would have access to remapping, remapping module or functionality. Same kind of information, but in this case, you are seeing like left-hand side, you are still seeing the future state, and then right-hand side is also future state, because once you decide for the future state, and then you go and make these final decisions based on how exactly your future organization would look like. I'll skip next and go to the organization design. So these are the KPIs which are like supported by which are built on top of Neo4j using Java and Cypher queries. So what we're doing is basically we're looking at all the entire organization hierarchy. We're looking at what is span of control. Like for example, if you see these KPIs, you can see like from level 2 to level 10, what number of positions are available across each level, as well as how many number of positions are currently there for org design. Like for example, you can take a decision whether you want to retain a position or whether you want to eliminate this position for the future state of the organization. And this KPI gives you an overview of what or how current state looks like. So it tells you right now that there are 9,000 positions that I have access to. And then out of that, I'm almost like 4,000 positions. I have not taken a decision yet what I'm going to do about those positions. 5,000 approximately positions I have already retained for future state of the organization, and 200 odd some positions I have decided to be eliminated from this organization. It also gives you here like what is the level number of people which are present in each of the levels. And here, basically, it can give you some sort of indication whether you want to create a flat organization, only 3 levels, only 4 levels, or you really want to build out an organization hierarchy, which is like 10, 12 levels or something like that. Also, you can identify on an average what are the direct number of reports at individual level, and that's how you can make decisions whether how many number of people should report into for a manager at level 3 versus level 4, and that sort of thing. All this is like real time, which means that if I go into org design model, this is again a different org chart. And what I see here is I can build future state hierarchy. So like, for example, this is a service manager that is available, and these are the number of positions which are reporting into that manager. What I can do is I can design the future state organization. I can move positions around. So this lets me kind of build the future state hierarchy. And then I can choose to commit this to master, which means that I'm saving this particular data. And then after I made these changes, I commit to master. I'm able to go back to the KPIs, which are module specific. Within this particular module, there are KPIs, as well as the same thing is getting reflected in the homepage level KPIs. What is significant here is that all these hierarchies with respect to the relationships that you are building, number of people reporting into, all this relationship is built using Neo4j in the backend. So we have nodes and relationships which kind of help us navigate through the current state of the organization versus future state of the organization. The positions are same, and you have different relationships for these position nodes where you can go and traverse depending on what you're trying to look at. Also, this allows you to do some sort of what-if scenario. So let's say I am trying to build an hierarchy, and I'm not sure whether this is the one that I want as final structure or not. What I can do is I can always create another version from this. I can store it like today's 20th, and then I can save this as a version. And what it allows me to do is like I can look at this particular version and look at the KPIs for the version and compare those against master version. So let it save. Also, this button here that shows history with respect to like whenever you're making changes, if you click on that particular button, it tells you like what were the changes made as part of this commit, so that you really know, okay, what you are committing to the database or what exactly is getting stored and getting reflected for other users as well. So you can go to org summary again, and then yeah, some of these statistics has changed. Now you can compare always between like version 2, master version, and then these KPIs would show you the difference between these what-if scenarios. And you can pick and choose like exactly what is the information or what is the structure that you ultimately would select for your future state of the organization. Similarly, you can drill down and filter on specific functions. So let's say if I want to just filter on tax, I get a very limited view of that particular function or sub-function. So it tells you only with respect to finance and tax what is happening, and you can always club together like all the like at a finance level also. you can get that information. Similarly, there's a tabular view, same here, such as org mapping, and you can decide in bulk like what decisions you want to make, whether you want to retain positions or like eliminate positions and things like that. Not only positions and employees, but you can also select whether what kind of job alignment that you want to perform for a certain set of positions. Like you want to change the future state job IDs for these positions, or you want to change the work location and all that information. So I can go to a position and I can click on configure. It allows you to change position titles, jobs for the positions. It allows you to change the work location details as well. And it allows you to kind of store additional information, such as while making a decision. So let's say I'm eliminating certain positions, I can decide on what is the exact reason code, why am I eliminating a certain position, or even why I'm retaining a certain position, something like that. You can also search by a specific position on the left-hand side. Like you can select, okay, I am looking at this specific position. It tells you what that position is. You can double-click any of the position, and it gives you additional attributes that you ingested as part of data ingestion. So you can look at this right-hand side, and it gives you all the information that you want to look at for that particular position. So all this data is, most of it is reference data that you ingested from the client, and client use these data points to kind of decide what you want or what decisions that you want to make. Apart from position management, it also helps you with succession planning. So for example, once you decide, okay, what is my future position hierarchy is going to look like, it can also help you decide what people would be sitting in what positions. So basically this view tells you, okay, there are these 9,600 positions, and then there are like only 2 selected, which means that only for 2 positions you selected an employee which would be sitting in these positions. And then there are 9,600 positions which are open positions, which means that you just have a position and you haven't really selected what person or what employee would be occupying these positions for future state. So there's also a view which allows you to kind of search for an employee that you want to fill. So this view, like add employee, gives you like search capabilities that you can search. And this search is again Neo4j. We have built structures in Neo4j which allows you to search by a specific attribute. So on the left-hand side, you see what different attributes that you have. Also, you can search through a manager name and ID and identify, okay, what exactly are the people who are reporting into that manager, and then I can search based on those positions. And I select a specific person, saying that this is a person that I want to assign for future state. I select it, and then you see that I can change, and that means that this now position has this new person assigned to it. I can save, commit, and that change would be visible to other users. I can also, same thing here, you can do a tabular view bulk edit based on positions. Based on positions, you can decide what exactly you want to do. You can like, I think it's from employees. Yeah, so when you are in the employee view, you can decide whether you want to retain. So let me retain, sorry. You want to retain the employee in the same position. Whatever is the incumbent employee that is in that position, you can assign it, or you can choose a different position for this particular employee. So you can select a different position from the list, and you can say, okay, the employee would be sitting in that position for the future state. You can like, depending on the access that you can have, you can also switch to different, so you can also request for a transfer of an employee. So let's say you know an employee which you do not have access currently, but it sits in a different part of the organization. You can request an employee after searching that employee. And then whoever owns that part of the organization would have access to kind of accept or reject your request. And then once the employee's transfer is approved, then you have that particular employee that you can assign to one of the positions that you selected. Again, the KPIs are position-based, employee-based. It gives you access to all the information, and then you can make decisions real time. So earlier version of this tool, we were using Excel documents to kind of make these decisions offline, and then used to get loaded to SQL Server, and then all the calculations used to happen in SQL Server, and then you get another Excel output back with the results. But with Neo4j, what we can do is we can really calculate what is span of control, such as like number of people reporting into one specific position, as well as what is the cost of the organization that I have, as well as it can give you guidance with terms of current state and future state. All these relationships are managed in Neo4j, so you can traverse depending on what the functionality that you're trying to showcase. And you can change your decisions then and there. So you make a decision and you realize, no, this is like impacting my top line, bottom line, some sort of target that I need to meet. And if it is not able to meet that, you can always go back, change it real time, and then make sure that you meet your target with this particular tool. Also, there is this transition planning. So basically, you decided, okay, these are the people that I'm going to offboard from the organization. There are certain n number of formalities that you have to perform with respect to these people, like exit interviews and then other formalities which are HR related formalities. So this tool allows you to kind of control that through, you can specify different dates and different parameters for these offboarding formalities, and that kind of gives you a high level view of like, okay, what is happening on a certain date, how many people are leaving your organization in wave 1, wave 2, and that sort of thing. Also, there's a reporting component. So obviously, there's all this information is present, and you want to easily be able to distribute this information to other sections within your organization or other groups or other executives. One of the cool features that I want to show is like org chart. So what you can do is, let's say, Future State HR Limited. This is a third-party tool that we're using, org chart now, and it can really print org charts, which you can kind of take a look at, decide, okay, what the future state hierarchy would look like, take a printout, share it with executives and stuff like that. Also, there's a set of Tableau reports. So if you click one of these reports, obviously it will go to Tableau. You can see the similar kind of information, KPIs developed in Tableau. Also, it has an Excel interface, like the decisions that you have made, you can download these decisions as an Excel output, and like you can store it on your desktop and use it. One of the things that I wanted to show, and a lot of people were interested in showing the entire organization hierarchy. So a lot of people asked us like, okay, can I see just the entire organization in plain read-only view? And this is what we're doing. This is org view, and you can just like load the entire hierarchy of the organization and kind of keep scrolling and keep looking at exactly what you want to find. You can also filter based on company that you're looking at. So you're looking at source company B and specific function within that company, and then like a specific function. And then you can look at the function, you can see exactly how the hierarchy for that function, sub-function is, and then you can take a decision with respect to what you want to perform. And again, now I will come back to the home page again. So some of this would now make sense. So it will tell you any decisions that you're making. It will come, like whenever you come back to the home page, at real time, it will calculate the same kind of information from Neo4j. Using Cypher queries, it will show you how much org mapping you have performed, org design, that is the decisions that you've taken for positions, succession planning or talent planning with respect to what people would be sitting in what positions, and then transition planning, what formalities that you need to follow for like offboarding a person. It also shows you the cost of the organization, savings or synergies, and the levels within the organization. What is the span of control, what level you wanted, and how are you faring against those targets that you had. Those were set for you. Can we switch to presentation, please? Next slide, please. Yep. So this is a slide which basically details out some of the things that Todd mentioned about the process. So obviously there's a process component where we go, there's a consulting component to it, where depending on the client situation, we go talk to the customer, understand what the situation is, what kind of transformation that they're undergoing, and how best help them. The technology part is the tool that we use for making all these decisions, storing all these decisions, and reporting based off like these decisions and communicating those. And there's also people part of it, the real consultants who do this at the client engagement level. I'll go to the next slide. So this slide also kind of details out some of the important benefits that we have with this particular tool. So we have single source, like same information, same data store. We do not have any information that is offline or something like that. Whenever the decisions are made, those are stored, captured in Neo4j, and are available to be downloaded easily or can be shared across different users. And yeah, same thing, analytics, data visualization, and all those sort of things. Support compliance, so that's one of the important things. So what happens is that because of the nature of the transaction that is being performed, it is important that we capture the history for every action that is performed. So any action that you're taking in the tool, you are doing an org mapping or reverting back that decision, or you're making a decision for the position and reverting back that position, all that needs to be captured. So what we do is we capture all this history in Neo4j using relationships. So let's say there's a position, and then you capture history with respect to who made the change, what the change was, and that needs to be captured for the entire span of engagement. And Neo4j relationships kind of help us do that. And that's like, it supports our compliance requirements, where we can go and identify exactly all set of decisions which were made for a position, who made those decisions, and what were, like, if there are any comments or something like that were provided at the time of that. I'll go to the next slide. So this is basically, this slide just kind of very high level summarizes how Neo4j helps us do this. So calculations across hierarchies, that's really key here. Like whenever we make a change, the entire recalculation of the cost of the organization or span of control, where you go at different levels. It's like a nested loop, like a query that you probably would have written in a RDBMS database. Now you just traverse graph and compute that information, and you show that information to the user with respect to what their organization looks like. Different versions of the hierarchy. So basically the what if scenarios that I showed you guys, where you went and saved that as an entire different graph structure whenever you are trying to save different versions. And when you are comparing one version against the other version that you have saved, is basically comparing two graph structures against each other and trying to see what exactly is the difference. So like Neo4j helps us save those org hierarchies and traverse those org hierarchies as required. Thousands of nodes and relationships. So obviously there are a lot of relationships within an organization, such as there are obviously position report to position, employees occupying positions, then there is job, there's work location, there's cost center, business, all these attributes like employees, home address, employee skill set, all these are like different relationships to different properties that we have. And then same thing gets reflected for the future state as well. You have the same decisions, same org structure, cost, employees, people relationships for future state. And you kind of have to manage these both. Any point of time, you should be able to look at the current state as well as the future state of the organization. And this tool kind of does that using Neo4j. Transaction support, that's really key. So all these transactions, like whenever you're doing these transformations, there are a lot of different things that are impacted, such as like you assign an employee to a future state position, and what happens is like you have to make sure that there's no other employee which is sitting in that position, or like you have to take another decision for the employee which is currently occupying that position or something like that. There are a lot of cipher queries which get executed behind the scenes to kind of make that happen. And Neo4j transactions is kind of a key which really helps us make or maintain a consistent state at the end of it. Like anything goes wrong anywhere, it kind of entire transaction gets rolled back, and we are able to kind of maintain the consistent state at the end of it. Yeah, so that's some of the things how Neo4j really helps us. And this is the deployment architecture. So we're deploying it on cloud. So we are deploying this on Azure. We have a front-end web app and back-end web app, which basically supports the front-end and the back-end. Back-end is written in Spring Boot Java. It's basically kind of reads cipher queries. We use Java driver, Neo4j Java driver to kind of execute cipher queries on Neo4j, get that data, and then the back-end web app kind of provides JSON information, JSON format information to the front end, which uses that same information to render it on the front end. We have access from EY internet, as well as the clients have access from the HTTPS website. So I think we just have like 10 more minutes left on this presentation. I want to give like 10 minutes for some Q&A if we have any questions.
Thank you. questions? Anybody work for a large company? You ever been reorged? Your first question is, all right, nice reorg. Who do I work for now? Do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the talent planning and the succession planning pieces in this, in terms of, like, do you use any aspects of the Neo4j network to give you some recommendation of who might be a good successor for someone in that role? Or do you think about it as like a longer, do you use it at all for longer term succession planning?
Yeah, so we do have a backlog item which basically deals with that. Right now in this particular tool, there's nothing that is a recommendation from Neo4j, but we do have a certain information that is already present in the app, which basically collects what is the skill set that you have, number of years of experience, and based on the position information, based on the incumbent that is occupying that position, you kind of recommend saying that based on the person who is currently occupying this position, you have these set of people who can fill out that position if you really want to do some succession planning. Todd, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, we work with skills and competencies and trying to capture, the needs of the positions versus the skills or the competencies that employees have. The data is quite difficult to get that data and have it accurate and maintained and up to date. So we are looking at other things like if you look at scope of organizations that people have managed in the past, and if they've managed a team of 500 people, let's say, and you're trying to fill a position that's managing 500 people, then there's some correlations we can start to draw. We've looked at trying to get, but the more and more we need some structured data, particularly around skills and quals, just to make really solid recommendations. So for the clients that maintain it, we'll take it and we'll use it for, they often want the result without doing the hard work of collecting the data.
Thank you.
See you at the bar.